Hi, Don. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Megan. I'm pleased to be here.
Now, you're the president of the Intracoastal Model Railroad Club here in Brunswick County.
Yes.
Is that correct? Now, what exactly is the Intracoastal Model Railroad Club?
Well, we're a collection of mostly retirees now, but it's a lot of fellows who have come down from the north and have a lifelong hobby in collecting model trains and running model railroads, and we felt it was an opportunity for us to get together and kind of expand on our hobby here and perhaps bring it to some folks in Brunswick County that haven't seen this sort of thing before.
Okay, and how did you yourself get involved in this organization?
Well, the organization, I'm one of the founders of it. There was 3 of us from Brunswick Plantation, another from Carolina Shores, and we had the opportunity to do some training for the Boy Scouts, matter of fact, back in 2005. And we got together and we said, well, maybe we should form a club. So long story short, we now have about 40 members, and of those 40, about 20 are very active.
Okay. And what exactly goes on in the club?
Well, we meet monthly at different folks' houses, and we have some business that we transact. That is where we're going to hold various kinds of train shows, certain kinds of projects we're working on. And we do that for about an hour in each meeting, and then we go up and we basically play with trains or talk about model trains and model railroading. And it's intended to be a fun group in which we can educate a lot of the public on what this hobby is all about.
Okay. And now you mentioned that you just started it, I guess, a couple years ago. But how did it get started? It was just you and some friends, I guess, just wanted to get more involved.
That's right. And there was 4 of us, and the 3 of us lived in the same neighborhood, and we just happened to have very big interest in this hobby. So we invited another fellow along with us. In fact, 2 other fellows. One was an old-time railroad engineer from Long Island. So we found that there was an interest among us to start this, and then as we expanded out, we started finding more people. And the more we get exposed to the public in Brunswick County, the more people we're finding, and more men that are very interested in this hobby.
About how many members do you have at the Intracoastal?
Well, we have 40 members now. We have a Yahoo group that we use to communicate, and 40 members on that Yahoo group. And coming to the meetings, we have anywhere from 15 to 20 people who regularly attend.
Okay. And now you're all very active in the community. What type of community events has the club been involved with?
Well, our #1 event has been and continues to be a charity event for the Grissetown Longwood Fire Company. We do that each December, in the first week in December, and we help them raise money for various needs that they have within their firehouse. And this December will be the 4th year we've done that.
Okay.
We also have done this year, we did the Spring Festival in Southport. And of course, we've just done ATMC's annual meeting this past weekend, which was very well attended, along with the BEMC a couple of weeks before that. So that's our way of reaching out to the community.
And at these events, do you set up your railroad tracks, or?
We do. We have, well, for the ATMC event, just as an example, we set up 2 of our what we call kids layouts. And these are highly interactive, and we invite the public to come in, especially the young people, come in and operate the trains and operate some of the accessories. And that was really the way this hobby got started. When it goes back as far as 60, 70 years ago. And children have a great deal of fun with this. And that's really who we're trying to attract.
The kids. Now, you mentioned the kids layout. Now, what other types of setups do you have?
Well, it's interesting you should ask that question, because in January we started a layout to represent Brunswick County. There was an old railroad, which is now defunct, but it was out of Wilmington, called the Wilmington, Brunswick, and Southern Railroad. It ran from Navassa to Bolivia to Southport. And we've modeled that. And in fact, we took some editorial license and even ran it down to Calabash.
Really?
So at our last couple of shows, we have run that railroad, and we're trying to replicate in our own way what Brunswick County may have been like in the 1940s and 50s.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, what all goes into making these layouts? How extensive is it? How long does it take to do it?
Well, that particular layout, we pretty much had an idea what we wanted to do, and we also had some booklets from the county that we found in some libraries to give us some clues. But we built that actually in 2 months.
2 months.
And it was a very ambitious effort, but the 2 months paid off. And as we go to each train event, each show that we have, we try to improve on it, add more features to it, more landscaping, and more illustrations of what the county may have been like, because we run more trains on it.
And so all of the members of the organization typically work on these types of things together as far as creating the models? Or
well,
is there a core?
we have, actually what we have is, if you take a look at the hobby, there's probably about 6 or 7 major scales of model railroads in this hobby, from ones which we call garden railroads, which might be this large, to ones which are very tiny, which may be only a couple of inches long.
Okay.
So depending upon what the individual's interest is, they'll work on one project or another.
Okay.
So we have really specialists in various kinds of sizes of the model trains.
Okay, so basically it'll go from making a sketch, I assume? Do you have to make a sketch of the layout and then go into creating it?
That's basically what we do. I tend to use program software, which I can actually create the layout, the track plan, and then we go from there. We can add some other landscaping and structures on that particular plan.
Okay.
And then once it moves from there to the table, then we use our own imagination as to kind of create what we believe the scene should look like.
Okay, and are all these setups, are they true to scale, would you say?
We try to take, well, first off, the one in Brunswick County, we make it true to scale. It's a scale which is, which in the model railroading hobby is called HO scale. And it's 1 to 87 is the scale ratio. Now, the children's layouts that I mentioned earlier, they tend to be 1 to 48, which we call O gauge.
Okay.
But given that it's more of a toy-like environment, all the structures and all the trains are not necessarily to scale.
Okay.
But they're more fun kind of things to work with rather than the details of working on a highly scenic layout.
Okay, so if someone were to come to one of your setups, what can they expect to see?
Well, they can expect to see a range of different layouts of different sizes. We have one fellow who has 2 small layouts which actually fit in attaché cases, the sort of thing that you would take to the office. And these actually are so small that it takes special magnifying glasses and tools just to work on the trains. Well, that's a very special area.
Right.
But others, we can expect folks to be working in the old Line L trains or American Flyer, which people have remembered, many of them from the time that they were young. And we can expect to work on that as well as the scale types of layouts. And so we try to provide a range of opportunities for everybody.
Now, as far as interacting, is the kids layout the only one that people can actually interact with, or are there other models that people can interact with?
Those are the 2 that are the primary interactive layouts. The reason for it is that there's accessories on those layouts which actually do something, whether it's load coal or load lumber, operate a magnetic crane, and those kinds of accessories really don't exist in some of the other scales. And so the other scales we tend to make more of a realistic layout, a different sort of environment than we do with those 2 children's layouts. Nevertheless, they're always fun to look at and always fun to be around.
Now, I've heard that some of your members are actually ambassadors of the world's greatest hobby. Can you go into a little bit more detail of what exactly that means to have that title?
Well, those of us who are ambassadors, we really represent a national effort. In some ways international effort, but the world's greatest hobby was originally started by Comback Publishing Company in Wisconsin. And it has spread out and become a national event, so that there are 4 to 6 train shows they have in major cities each year, and over the last 5 or 6 years they've had 500,000 people attend these big shows. And I think it really points out the fact that this hobby, as broad as it may be, has a universal appeal. Right. And the world's greatest hobby, as an ambassador, one of our jobs is to reach out to the public, to educate children, to get them started on a hobby which really has a lot of wholesale values, not only for the children, but the entire family, so they can all do things together.
Right. So pull out more than just Thomas the Train. Right.
Well, let me just say, Thomas the Train is excellent. My granddaughter loves Thomas the Train. In fact, I just sent her some information about Thomas the Train coming to Austin, Texas, where she lives. And that's this weekend. But Thomas the Train is a good place to start. And in my opinion, it's an outstanding means of getting young people involved in this hobby. But as they move into, as they get older, into 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, they're looking for something different. They're looking for more of a model railroading thing.
Okay.
So this is a chance for them to get started on the hobby and move into something else later on.
And how often do you have those meetings?
Well, our meetings at the club are usually monthly. I think we meet, we meet about 10 times a year at people's houses, and then occasionally we'll meet at a location where we're going to have a train show.
Okay. And if someone wanted to get involved with the group, how do they contact you? What's your best form of contact?
Well, there's two best forms of contact. One is telephone, and the other is email.
Okay.
And my phone number is 910-287-6866.
Okay.
So that, and contact me directly there. We also have a Yahoo group in which we can direct people to get more information. But the best thing is just to call me or call one of the other people in the club, and we'll be sure to talk to them about what we do, how we do it, and get them involved.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
It was my pleasure, Megan.